So some of you may be wondering, well, David's here. What's Trish doing up here? He was at the Unity Conference all week, and so he drove back on Friday and appreciated not having to have a talk ready for that. So David, these are notes. You might not know what they are. When he gives his talk, he doesn't have any notes, which I clearly have an issue with. And I will forewarn you that in preparation for this, this hasn't happened in a while. I prepared one talk and then undid it and prepared another one, and now I'm back to the first one. So hopefully you can follow it. And it started with, on Monday, with a reading that just really got me to thinking about love in a different way, relationship in a different way, and it carried me through the week, and so that's sort of what instigated what I hope to bring to you today. So I'm going to share that with you, and it's from Father Richard Rohr's. He gives daily inspirational meditations that he emails if you're on his list. And this one was from Monday, June 17th, called Love in Service of Transformation. Cynthia Borgault, an Episcopal priest and one of the center's core faculty members, calls Jesus' teaching and way of life the path of conscious love. She writes, conscious love emphasizes the life-affirming and implicitly relational nature of the path. And the word conscious makes clear that the touchstone here is transformation, not simply romance. Conscious love is love in service of inner transformation, or, if you prefer, inner transformation in service of love. Either way, this is exactly what Jesus was about. And Richard says, the words conscious love ring true for me as a definition of our life's purpose and the goal of all spirituality. When we're conscious, we will always do the loving thing, the connecting thing, the intimate thing, the communion thing, the aware thing. To do the unloving thing is always to somehow be unconscious at that moment. The first requirement of conscious love, of course, is that we become conscious, or in other words, anchored in the quality of our presence deeper than. The first requirement of conscious love is, of course, that it has to be conscious, or in other words, anchored in a quality of our presence, deeper than simply egoic selfhood. I know, I get it. It's a lot of work. The Buddhist psychologist John Welwood wrote, by contrast, dreaming that love will save us, solve our problems, or provide a steady state of bliss or security only keeps us stuck in wishful fantasy, undermining the real power of love, which is to transform us. For our relationships to flourish, we need to see them in a new way, as a series of opportunities for developing greater awareness, discovering deeper truth, and becoming more fully human. What struck me about this right away was that I somehow had it a little bit backwards, that once I can get more grounded in love and become more loving, then my relationships will be better. I won't have any issues. But what this is saying is in the issues, in the friction, the relationships are bringing the opportunity for you to dive a little deeper into yourself. Darn it, right? So this is sort of how it showed up for me. And I read this on Monday. I was like, oh, I get it. So those points of not that I have a lot of disagreements that I'm aware of, but those points of friction that we have on a variety of levels with our coworkers, with the people that drive on the roads. Oh my gosh, who are they? I hope they're never you, because I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. Just that alone, some days, can you just drive and you're very generous with people and, you're like, okay, go ahead. You need to go somewhere. That's fine. And the next day you're like, who do you think you are? You can't get ahead of me. It's strange. Like, just how conscious are we? So I read that and I was very inspired by that. And Monday night, some of you know my partner Heidi was with the YOU in Oklahoma for a week at a rally, God bless her. She loved it. It was great. She got home at the wee hour of 3 a.m. on Monday. So she was tired and out of her body. And we were watching Supergirl, because that's obviously what keeps you conscious. With the greatest teacher in our household, Hazel, the 9-year-old. And we'd watched 2 episodes, and it was 10:30, and we were tired, and so that was it. Turn it off, okay. And then we started in a little conversation about something, which meant for her, I'm going to start the next one. And I said, oh no, we're going to bed. And her mom said, it's bedtime. And then there was somehow just, she didn't hear that. I don't know, we were just not loud enough. And so it kept going, and so I said, turn it off. That's it. And she said, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I said, well, I don't like what you're doing. Turn it off, we're going to bed. And I proceeded to storm upstairs and left that mess downstairs. Right. And the whole way up, I just thought, I just spent an hour and a half watching Supergirl. I hate Supergirl. And why isn't it never enough? And I went into this whole thing, and this isn't about parenting. This is about any relationship that causes that reaction. And right next to my bed, as I got in there, was this. Love in service of transformation. And so I called myself back into my body, and I just kind of wrote. I'm just demonstrating for you some of the ways that we can come back into consciousness. Why is this so important to me? Why is my being right about this more important than Hazel's desire to want to watch another one, or how it made her feel? And again, I say that this doesn't mean that we let people do whatever they want, but we ourselves stay focused and connected to our, what does it say here? We want to do the loving thing, the connecting thing, the intimate thing, the communion thing, the aware thing. And so as I tried to get to the bottom of why that was so important to me, it became less important that I understood what was important about it to me, and more important that I could stay connected. And I can still say, what it comes out to be? It's something like, I'm really frustrated, and I don't want to be that with you, and I'm going to go upstairs and go to bed. Or I'm going to go upstairs and take a few breaths. Whatever it is that brings us back into the availability to be connected, yes? And so this really rang true for me, that I can't wait until I'm more loving. I've got to be it in the moment as it calls me forward, and do whatever I need to do to reconnect with myself and then with whoever I'm dealing with. So, and love is what? It's really bounced around a lot, right? I mean, I love chocolate. I love my dog. Supposedly I love God. God is love. I noticed all of this morning, the huge capacity in which we use that. What do I want to say about that? I wrote down the love litmus test. Like at any given moment, because the key to that is consciousness, yes? So it's more than romance. That's all wonderful. It's more than sort of what we think of. When you think of love, what do you think of? Acceptance. Warmth. Compassion. Peace. Okay, you guys are clearly more evolved. Yes. But that's true, because here's what I want to say about what I recognized was that there is above, if we pay attention, below all of the personality stuff that comes up, and it's going to come up, there is something that we all recognize to be the power of love that is transformative, yes? And to describe it, it's a little difficult, but we've certainly, to me, it's like going ahead and stepping into, all right, I'm going to look at this in that moment, and being willing to recognize that there's something calling me that's deeper and truer than being right in that moment, than being the boss, although it's so fun. I do love it. And so when I tune into that, there's a whole different perspective that opens up. And so when we say God is love, now I really want to see if I can get this to you, because where I ended up with this was so profound. I was like, oh, this is so awesome. We don't say God is loving because God is not a person, right? God is the essence, the truth, the power of love itself, and we experience that through our capacity to love. And in my opinion, I don't think as long as we are in these human bodies, we can really ever experience the vastness of that love. I just think we're limited in our ability to imagine it and to grasp. But if we believe that we are expressions of Source, we are expressions of what we say God is love, then there's a natural pull. That is what it is that's pulling at us. That if we remain conscious, we feel it and we say yes to it. Yes? So it's not just it feels better. It does. It feels better not to be snitty. But there's something that also brings about a whole new awareness of wholeness and truth and possibility. Yes? So I'm gonna go there, and if this doesn't blow your mind, I don't want to hear about it. Because it's kind of heady, but I just want to, and maybe you probably already know this, and you're like, yeah, that's old news, Trish. But this reading led me to another reading called Love is the Answer, What is the Question? By that same writer. And she's speaking about French philosopher and Jesuit priest, I can always say this until I'm on the stage, Teilhard de Chardin. His unique understanding of how all of creation came into being. And what he actually observes seated in the stuff of the universe is stick with me, is a paradoxical dialectic, I don't know what that means, intense atomicity, granulation, the myriad bits and pieces of our materiality, and yet at the same time, the underlying unity and a force calling the unorganized multitude to move in the direction of the unified multiple. All that means is we're all like this, and there's something pulling us together. However the pieces may have gotten broken up in the first place, what he observes everywhere in the universe is a countering force, he names it love, moving beneath the pixelated surface, drawing all things together. Driven by the force of love, he writes, the fragments of the universe continuously seek each other, so that the world may come into being. Wait a minute. Yes, say that again. So the very creation of creation is the energy of love coming together. Okay. For him, love is not the first and foremost a sentiment, let alone sentimentality. It is first and foremost a geophysical force built into the very structure of the cosmos. In an astonishing one-liner toward the end of the human phenomenon, he writes, in all its nuances, love is nothing more or less than the direct or indirect trace marked in the heart of the element by the psychic convergence of the universe upon itself. I don't know, it's very impressive. So the universe itself, of which we are then a part of. And so it's like we're kind of yearning for ourselves as we relate to each other. And then our stuff comes up and I say, well, that's stupid, why'd you do it that way? And that's going to happen. But if we are aware of this underlying force. And to me, just seeing it like this was like, oh, wow, it's more than me just playing nice. It's like calling us. And from that place of connection and wholeness, we're actually living out our creative purpose. So the take-home line here, it ends with, it takes a whole village to raise a child, and it takes a whole cosmos to bear forth the depths of divine love. So we got to keep at it. And what's calling us in this realm of divine love is calling us to, in all the places that we're not being true to that in some way. We're not conscious of it in those terms. Well, I'm not disobeying the geographical force of love, right? But we can sense and we can feel that we're out of alignment with some sense of wholeness. Do you agree with me? Mm-hmm. And so how do we do that in the moment? That's a big I can't really connect with that when I don't want to watch Supergirl at 10:30. Maybe I can now. Going forward, I think I can. But right, how do we connect with it in the moment? How do you do it? Breath? Okay, that's why you're here, I see. Yeah. It is taking that moment to separate from the experience, to draw back into. And the other thing about it is we're not coming at it. Sometimes I feel like if I could be more loving, the person would change. No, we change. Our experience of them changes. It could be that it doesn't even trigger us anymore. Or if it does, we're very quick to remember. How would love approach this? How would love be an expression in this? And again, it might be a simply removing yourself, taking a breath, getting recentered. The heart math that I've shared with you has been around forever, and it's simple. It seems too simple to be true, but it is. I have found it to be worthwhile to really connect with your heart space, to breathe into your heart space, take as much time as you need, and then come back. You're still going to have the discussion. You're still going to have whatever's happened is not going to magically dissolve, usually. But you're coming at it from a very different place, and there's a whole new opportunity there. So I am spending some time, and I encourage you to as well, to develop those, try some things out that in the moment, instead of reacting, would bring you back to your heart space and to that potential to connect in love.